Android 11 officially released a couple of days ago. Now, I've been living with Android 11 for months now with developer previews and beta releases, and I've got thoughts. I'm going to give you my full review of Android 11 next. Hands on Android is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Hands on Android is brought to you by MySudo. Take back control of your privacy with MySudo and download the MySudo app today from the App Store or Google Play. Go to mysudo.com/twit to learn more. Hello, welcome to Hands on Android. I'm Jason Howell, and earlier this week, we got what we knew was right around the corner. Google finally released Android 11 officially for everyone, or at least those lucky enough to have the devices that would get it on day one. Now, if you happen to have any of Google's Pixel phones, you're pretty much in the clear. I think Pixel 1 generation is not getting this new version, but Pixel 2 and up will all receive it as of day one. I got my update on the day that it was released on Tuesday. But you don't have to have a Google phone. It's actually kind of crazy. This time around, there are select OnePlus devices, select Xiaomi, Oppo, and Realme phones, all that have the ability to push out Android 11 on day one. So it's pretty awesome to see that we're at this place with Android. I feel like this has been something that we've really wanted, is quicker updates, and we're kind of seeing the fruits of the labor behind the scenes to make that happen. That's huge. There have been 7 developer preview and beta releases leading up to this official release, and Google has stated all along that this release is really about 3 key areas. Number 1, people, which is basically a focus on how messaging and conversation management takes place on the device. There's also some new accessibility features in there that enable people to rely on their voices a bit more. Number 2 is controls, which includes new ways to take control of things like smart home devices in your house, or media on the device, that sort of stuff. And then finally, an ongoing priority for Android has been privacy, and this is no different. Google has really refined the permission system with deeper controls that should help users feel just a little bit more secure. I think they're doing a great job. So how has Google done in all of these areas? Well, after spending a lot of time with Android 11, I'm going to share my thoughts right now. So let's dive right in and take a look at Android 11 and see what we have. So first up, we're going to talk a little bit about the people aspect here. And we got to start with conversations. It's well known that Android has long had issues. It's had a problem when it comes to messaging on the platform. Talk about fragmentation. The messaging approach has always felt particularly fragmented. Android 11 has thankfully implemented some key changes to how messages are organized, how they're managed on the device. And I'm happy to say that some of these changes are really great improvements. And we'll start with conversations. Notification changes have been implemented that groups messages together in their own notification block at the top of the list. So first, the messages are prioritized up at the top. And what does that do? That makes them easy to find. Let's say in a deep list of notifications, they're always right up at the top. And bringing messages from different apps together in the same space actually also means that the apps that they're coming from kind of matter a little bit less. Apps that support deeper conversation features, which, by the way, a hint, Hangouts is not one of those apps that supports these features, but you can swipe to the left and tap on the settings button there next to those conversations, and you can make changes to that particular conversation or that particular person to kind of elevate them, give them priority, for example. If you set it to priority, that means that this contact is elevated to the top of the conversations view. The profile pic for this contact is going to be placed in the notification shade when something comes through, so I don't have to guess, oh, there's a message there, who's it from? I'm like, oh, it's from that person. I know I need to get it. And you have the option of giving them a fancy bubble, which is another part of this. Now, you've seen bubbles on Android before. I know I have for years now. Facebook started this years ago. But Android 11 gives that some premium attention. It actually embeds bubble functionality into the OS. That might seem strange for a feature that we've seen for a while, but in this case, bubbles really breaks the message out of the app that it's derived from. It kind of makes the app that those messages are coming from a little bit less important because they're all kind of coexisting together in this bubble type approach, if that makes sense. They can kind of exist on their own alongside other messaging app bubbles if you have a lot of these bubbles activated. This is how these messaging changes in Android 11 attempt to course correct around the various snags of messaging fragmentation, right? With bubbles for your most important messages, the app that it comes from really doesn't matter as much. It's really about the conversations, about the people more than the apps. And you get the important message from that important person. It comes through like you expect. The app it came from really doesn't matter, and you don't have to go looking for it either. It's just there. So in that case, I would say I feel really strongly that Google is on the right track here. You know, they've proven that as they've tried to make the messaging app that rules them all time and time again, and kind of failed at it each time, no kind of about it, they failed at it each time, they've kind of proven that that isn't the right direction to go. That isn't taking the entire messaging landscape on Android into consideration to realize that we all use our devices differently. We all choose different services in order to communicate with people. Yes, it can be confusing. So how on a platform level can we make it less confusing? And this really does, in practice, seem to address that. It doesn't try to be the one. It just tries to organize all of your contacts, and that really makes it very effective. Now, another one that falls into this category is screen recording. It's now embedded into the OS, and it's easily found in the quick settings pane. You might have to add it into there because it's hidden, but it's easily done. Just throw it in there, toggle the button, then you select the audio sources that you want recorded and record to a local file. It's stored on your device. Now, I will say that the final release of this feature is a little buggy for me. Seriously buggy, actually, at least on my Pixel 4 XL. I record a normal screen recording, as you can see here, of just basic home screen navigation. Then when I go to play it back, I get a blank home screen background image, or even worse, a Gboard crash pop-up that I never actually saw during the recording. It's very bizarre. I try the same thing on my Pixel 2 XL, and this feature actually works flawlessly. So it's really hard to know where this error came from on my 4 XL. It could be that I've upgraded from the beta directly over to the main, but Google does that automatically for me. So maybe that's the difference. The 2 XL came from Android 10 to Android 11. I'm not quite sure. As far as key features go, this isn't necessarily a headlining key feature for every user. You really have to know why you might ever need or want a screen recorder, but I certainly appreciate it. I don't have to use a third-party app anymore to do this when it works, of course. Could be good for sharing gameplay online or troubleshooting a problem with the parent's phone, that sort of thing. And finally, in the people category, voice access. Now, voice access as an accessibility feature isn't necessarily new to Android 11, but Android 11 has made it better, and that's thanks to a revised system that actively understands what's on the screen and the context that it exists within. And with that context, basically the voice access app can then create labels that make voice operation easier. It assigns everything on your screen a number, but it also kind of knows contextually what you're talking about when you say swipe left or show, take me to the home screen, that sort of thing. Technically, it makes it possible to navigate the device entirely with your voice. And it's not perfect, but it's a big step in the right direction. And any improvement to accessibility on Android is, in my book, a great improvement to be had. There's a lot of really great things going on as far as accessibility, live captions being one of the best symbols of accessibility features that truly work well on Android. And this is a nice inclusion to that. This episode of Hands on Android is brought to you by MySudo. You want privacy for your daily digital activities, and that's why you need MySudo. With MySudo, you can quickly create different profiles, called pseudos. Each one can have a working phone number, email, virtual card, and private browser. Download the MySudo app today from the App Store or Google Play. Just go to mysudo.com/twit, take back and control your personal information with the MySudo app, and download it today. Next, we have controls. Now, this could be one of my favorite features that we have on Android 11. From early on, the new power menu changes have really stood out for me. And over the months that I've used Android 11, I've truly come to rely on it. If you hold down your power button, you get this new screen, and it's broken out into a few different places. On the top row is the usual slate of power controls, including a new lockdown feature. You do need to enable that in settings, but then it appears there. It forces a PIN or a password login, which essentially bypasses any biometric login, so you can't be compelled to sign into your device by someone. It's nice for security in a pinch. And then in the middle section, you have some Google Pay functionality so that you don't have to open up the Google Pay app, right? You can just swipe between your cards. I only have one card here, but it keeps those payment cards front and center. And finally, my favorite aspect of this is device controls. And device controls really taps into the growing list of smart home devices that are synced to your Google account through the Home app. And if you've ever tried to manage your smart home through the Home app, you know it gets unruly really fast. Everything's in there. It's a long list. It's not the easiest thing to just jump in there and turn on the lights. Well, that's what this is designed to tackle. It's summoned when you do hold down the power button, that menu comes up. It's integrated into that power menu, and it's customizable. So you can decide which are the key features in my smart home that I want to appear here and have direct access and control of. And you can organize it any way that you like. In the case of Google Pay and device controls, the new power menu keeps me out of two separate apps, which I love. It embeds that in and integrates that into the OS environment. It saves time, saves headache, and it looks nice too. Now, along the lines of controls, we also have a change in media controls. This is actually pretty cool. It took a little bit of time to kind of win me over, let's say. The first few iterations of this in the developer preview were a little chunky, a little strange. I wasn't quite used to it. Now I can say I'm all in on it. In the vein of controlling things, Android 11 really corrals a lot of these different aspects and organizes them and makes them easier to use. And in this case, it keeps all of your media players from floating around the notifications pane in random places like it was in Android 10 and prior. You never really knew where that media player was going to be, and you might have multiples there. It was very confusing. You always know where to go and get it. You just drop down your notifications and then go down into the expanded quick settings, and you have that little block where the media controls have their own space in there. And if you have multiples, you can swipe left and right to swipe between your players. You can hit that X to get rid of one if you're totally done with it. And they've also added a very cool inclusion in there. One-tap access to the various Bluetooth devices that your phone recognizes. So you can send audio from one location to another. So if you happen to be in your Bluetooth earphones and then you walk into the kitchen and you realize I don't need my earphones anymore, you can open that up, select your kitchen, Google Home, and zap that audio over there seamlessly and continue listening. Definitely, it took me a little while to kind of get used to that aspect of it. I'm slowly reprogramming my brain to zip audio from one source to the other, but I love that the feature is in there, and I find it very, very useful, and I'm turning to it more. And finally, you've got privacy, and there's a few things in here to pay attention to. First, OneTime Permissions. This is a new feature in Android 11. Now, in Android 10, it included permission setting that would only give an app access while the app was actively in use, and that was very useful. Well, in Android 11, it includes a new option, which is OneTime Permissions, which essentially grants the permission for just that one usage of the app. It makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? The minute the app is closed, that permission is revoked, and then the next time you go into that app and it tries to call on the camera, it will ping you again to get that permission. This applies to microphone, camera, and location. It's super useful, though there is a little bit of a nag factor that coincides with this. So, you got to keep that in mind. If it's your favorite app, it's always asking you whether you want to use the camera, and you always say yes. Maybe that's your indication that, okay, maybe I should just open this up and not have to answer it this way every time. Totally up to you. Along those lines is background location. Say you want an app to have constant access to location in the background. Well, I can think of a lot of reasons why we wouldn't want an app to have constant access to that location data, but there are some apps that would really benefit from this, right? Before, you could set the permission to say allow all the time. That dialog would come up, you'd hit that, and you wouldn't even think about it again. It would just always have that access. Well, in Android 11, they've made it a lot more purposeful, a lot more deliberate on the user side of things. That pop-up that appears isn't going to give you that option. But that doesn't mean that option isn't there. You must go into the app's settings and then visit the location access page for that app. And there you're going to find the option, allow all the time, hiding in plain sight. So it really just requires the user to say, yes, I'm so confident in my granting this permission to this app that I have jumped into the settings, found the place, and triggered it from there. So it kind of puts the ball in your court. I definitely imagine some developers are not going to like this, but I applaud Google for taking the side of the users on this one. I think it's an important improvement. And what about apps that have legacy permissions on your device? Or these could be apps that you have not used in a very long time. So if an app sits dormant on your device and it has that background location access, like, do you want that? You might not even realize that that is happening anymore. You haven't used the app for so long. Android 11 now has the ability to automatically revoke those legacy permissions to be sure that an app isn't just collecting data without you knowing about it. And Google hasn't specifically addressed exactly how much time passes before this determination is made, but I'm all about automated systems that allow me to kind of be confident that everything is working behind the scenes to protect me, to keep my security all buttoned up for me. I do wish that there were maybe more granular controls on this. I'd love to know the amount of time. It's very obscure right now. I'm hoping that in a future version or a future update, Google will either clarify how much time that is or give us the ability to control that a little bit deeper than we can right now. But I think it's a really great direction. And finally, Google Play system updates. And this is via something called Mainline, which they don't explicitly talk about in Android 11 notes for the user. This is really happening behind the scenes, which is really the point. Mainline was the ability to update certain components of the OS using the Google Play Store update model or the Google Play System update model, so that you don't have to wait for official operating system updates in order to address certain things like security and other modules behind the scenes. In Android 11, they've added an additional 12 different aspects of the OS that can be updated like this, bypassing the OEMs and the carriers, that sort of stuff. They can just update it directly. That's on top of the 8 that they initially started with in Android 10. And this is just something that I continue to love. One of my favorite features that many people don't even know is happening, but it enables so much for keeping our phones safe and secure, keeping us protected, and not relying so much on the OEMs behind the scenes to actually get off their butts and update our phone and send us the update in a timely fashion so that we're protected. Props to the team, the Android team, for doubling the effective Mainline here, and I anticipate more progress here with upcoming versions of Android. I think it's a really great thing that they're doing. So with Android 11 rolling out now, my take really is that it's a pretty great update. Although you're going to look at it when you update your device and you're going to go, wow, things look very similar to what they were before. This is not an Android update that changes the look and feel of your device drastically, that totally alters the navigation dynamic of anything. You're not going to see anything like that. the majority of what is happening are these small incremental changes. It's really iteration instead of like grand innovation, let's say. But that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? I think that the changes that Google has roped into Android 11 are meaningful, especially on the privacy front. I think that some of these changes really do put so much power and control into the user's hand, and I really give Google a lot of credit for continuing to beat that drum. I also think they've taken some pain points in my own usage, and I don't know about you, but I know in my own usage, a lot of that smart home control and media management and stuff like that, the changes that have been made in Android 11 really do improve how I interact with the device and kind of take a little bit of the headache away that I may not have even realized they were headaches to begin with. But now that I've been living with the changes, I see, okay, I love where it has come. And then especially with conversations, which has just been such a long game for Google and laughably so at times. But I really think that they're onto something with this grouping mechanism. With bubbles, take it or leave it. You may love them, you may not love them, but I appreciate the reason that they exist in this particular paradigm. And so I gotta say, I'm loving Android 11. I say if you get the update for it, make sure and make the jump right away. You're not going to regret it. It only adds features. It doesn't complicate how you're going to use your device, and it's proven itself. Even in the betas, in the developer previews, my phone has been pretty darn bug-free, and I haven't noticed anything for months. So I think you're going to get a solid update with Android 11. Check out twit.tv/HOA, and you can find all of my previous episodes of Hands on Android. And of course, subscribe there so you don't miss an episode. You do not want to miss a single episode of this show. And if you got any questions, of course, send me your emails, hoa@twit.tv. Big thanks to John Ashley for editing together all of my shows. I really do appreciate it. And thanks to you for watching and listening each and every week. We'll see you next time on Hands on Android. Bye, everybody.
Want more Twit? Well, check out Smart Tech Today. It's at twit.tv/STT. It's the show where Matthew Casanelli and I cover everything there is to know about smart tech. It's automation, it's connected devices, it's smart home, it's all those goodies and so much more. We get the news, we get the latest devices, we do reviews, everything. You got to check it out, twit.tv/STT for Smart Tech Today.